So I want to go back to somewhat Vav on the base because we sort of rushed up at the end 2 days ago. So we'll go back to the bottom of Daf Samach Vav on the base. Rushed up at the end. Okay. So let's go back to the Tanoihi Tanya, which is about 10 lines from the bottom, where we had a machlokes. We had a machlokes about miruach ovdei kechavim. Miruach ovdei kechavim. If the ovdei kechavim did the gemar malacha of produce of tfuah, would it be mechuyev in trumas and meisers? Zogt gemar Tanoihi to Tanya. Termin mishal Yisrael al shal Yisrael. Umishal ovdei kechavim al shal ovdei kechavim, umishal kutiyim al shal kutiyim, umishal kol al shal kol. Divrei Rav Meir Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Meir Rabbi Yehuda holds that the tvu of a kuti and the tvu of a goy is no different than the tvu of a yid, and therefore you can use the tvu of a goy to be truma and meiser, to be masaka, the tevel of Yisrael, and vice versa. Rabbi Yosy, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yosy and Rabbi Shimon say, Termin mishal Yisrael al shal Yisrael, umishal ovdei kechavim al shal kusim, umishal kusim al shal ovdei kechavim, avaloi mishal Yisrael al shal ovdei kechavim v'shal kusim, v'loi mishal ovdei kechavim v'shal kusim al shal Yisrael. Rabbi Yosy and Rabbi Shimon argue, and they hold that there is no chiyuv of trumas and meisers for a goy, for a tvua that miruach was done by a goy or by a kuti, and therefore, if you're going to use the goy's tvua to pater up to be the trumas and meisers of the to be misakin the tvua of the goy, it's going to be midaptor alachiyav. On the other hand, if you use tvua of Yisrael to be the trumas and meisers to be misakin the tevel of a goy, the tevel of a goy isn't tevel at all. It's not mechuyev in meisers. Let's turn on to Daf Samach Zayin about Aleph. Gilgul Hektish. Now we're going to talk about the halacha of challah. It says Reishus Arisai Seichem is given to the kohen, it has halacha of truma, but it's the becoming a dough that's mechayev it in truma, it's mechayev in challah, and that is gilgul by the kneading process. So gilgul Hektish poiter. If the kneading process was done while the dough belonged to hektish, then it will be potter. Ditnan we learned, hekdisha isasa ad shaloi gilgula. What if he was makdish, or she was makdish, her isa before it was ready to be kneaded, and then hekdisha isasa ad shaloi gilgula, before it needed to be kneaded, ufadasa, and then she was poided before it had to be kneaded, chayevas, because the gilgul, the kneading was done after the ptia. What about misha gilgula ufadasa? What if she already made the dough, she already kneaded the dough before she was makdish it, and then she was makdish it, and then she was poided? Again, chayeves, even though the dough at one point belonged to hektish, but during the kneading process, the dough belonged to the yachid. Hikdisha at shaloi gilgula. What if she was makdish before she needed it? The gilgula gizbar, and it was the gizbar who needed it, so it got kneaded. And when I say needed, I mean KNEAD. It got kneaded while it belonged to hektish. The achagach pedasa, and then she was poided. But the kneading process took place while it belonged to hektish, petura. That dough is part of challah shebeshas chayvasa haisa petura. The trigger point, which is the kneading, at that point it was moment hektish, and therefore there's no chi of chala. Boy Rava, Gilgal Oivet Kechavim Mai. What would be the halacha if a goy did the Gilgal? So we know hektish, Gilgal of hektish will not be mechayev and chala. What if during that period of time that Gilgal was done, maybe if he belonged to a goy, what would be the halacha? Will he pater the dough from chala? Mai. Zoktamar Misnatnan. We learned the following Mishnah. Ger shenis gayer. If a ger became a ger, it's always funny the lotion of ger shenis gayer. It really should say goy shenis gayer. So I once heard from Rabbi Rosner that the reason ger shenis gayer because we know that all of the ger that we get today were really predetermined or predispositioned to become ger. Why? Because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu went around to the nations of the world to ask them if they wanted Torah, the nations voted against it. But that doesn't mean it was a unanimous decision. It could be that the motion didn't pass, and it could have been 90-10 or 95-5. Those small few people who wanted the Torah from the other nations, but their vote was overruled because they were in the minority, those ended up becoming the Gerim of Klal Yisrael. So therefore, it's Gershon Skyer. Really, he's already a Ger from Bishas Matan Torah. Isa, and he had a dough. Nasa Achaloin Skyer. If it became dough, meaning the kneading process occurred before this person was Megayer, well, then the halacha is potter, because the kneading process was done by a goy. Mishen Skyer, but if it was unneeded after the person became a yid already, chayiv, then he'll be chayiv. Suffolk chayiv, and if it's a suffolk, it'll be chayiv, as well as a Rashi, the lechumra as leading you go lechumra. So now the question is, this Mishnah is clearly saying that if a guy needed the bread, if he was the one who did the kneading process, or he owned the bread during the kneading process, then the bread will be potter from challah. So the question is, ha'aman katanila, because we just had a machlokes on the bottom of Amud Beis, whether or not the miruach of a goy would pater. And we had Rameir and Abuda who held that the miruach of a goy would not pater, and Rabbi Yosy and Shimon said the miruach of a goy would pater. Now we have a brisa that says that the gilgal of a goy would pater. So therefore the Gemara declares, Haman katanila, divrei akayli. Are you telling me if this brisa is going according to everybody? Afilu Rameir, Rabbi Yehuda, the kamachavi hasam patri hacha. Even Rabbi Yehuda who held that miruach of a goy will still be mechayiv in maisers, in trumas and maisers. It makes tevel. Nevertheless, over here he would hold that challah has a different case set of halachas, and there the gilgal of a goy would not be mechayiv in challah. Why would you make such a distinction? Hasamu dichsev, by the miruach, when we're discussing whether or not the produce of a goy makes tevel, the gancha yisei rahava. The pasuk actually mentions the gancha, your digun, not the digun of a goy. It mentions it 2 extra times, and the 2 extra times teach us that ein ribui achar ribui ela lamayit. Let's take a quick look at the psukim where the gancha is mentioned extra. I'm going to scroll down to where the psukim are. Oh, I don't see the psukim here at all on the side of my daf. So we'll just look in Rashi, who quotes the psukim, the redundant lashonis of the gancha. Zot Rashi, Hasam Hanu Taima, the Miruch over the Chavim, Eine Potter, Mishum the trade the gancha ksivi. It says 2 extra the ganchas. The chsiv lo sucha lacha b'sherecha ma'aser the gancha. And then it says, V'achalta l'fnei Hashem l'kecha ma'aser the gancha. And then it says, Uksiv reishis the gancha. So one we learn, diguncha v'lo digun hektish. One the gancha tells you that if it belonged to hektish b'shas the miruach, then it does not become tevel. And then Yasel who trade the Gondcha, we have two the Gondcha Lamaya, Digun Ovid Gechavim. Kommt raus, if you have two Miutim, have a Digun Ovid Gechavim, Miut Achamiut, the Trey Kroi, come mightily. So since the Torah has two the Gondchas to be B'mayit, the Digun of a guy, so therefore have a Mit Achamit and Mit Achamit El Rabbis, that's why Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda hold that the Digun of a guy will still be Mechayv and Meiser. However, I feel like when it comes to the parish of Chala, Trey Zimni Arisosechem Ksiv. Here it says Arisosechem twice, not three times. Chag Arisosechem is Kedei Isaschem. We have to adjust the gears here. Chag Arisosechem V'lo Isas Ovet Echavim. The Chag Arisosechem is V'lo Isas Hektish. So therefore, by Chala it's different because it only says Arisa Sechem once to be Mamayit, the Gilgal of a guy. Rabbi Yosy, Rabbi Shimon Katanima. Or maybe the brisa that says that the dough of a goy is potter is according to Rabbi Yosy and Rabbi Shimon, who learned that the miruach of a goy is also potter, the kapatri. Maybe Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Gamri Rashis Mehasam. Maybe Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda will learn that even though it doesn't say the Riboy Achariboy by Arisai Sechem, nevertheless we use the word Rashis to learn from Miruach Levet that patters you to, from Miruach that they hold does not patter you, and that teaches us that by Chala, the kneading of a goy will also not patter you. As Rashi says, Rashis the Gondra, which it says by the Miruach, and Rashis Arisai Sechem, which it says by Chala. Mala Allah Miruach Ovid Gechavim Loi Potar, the Marbin law, Mimiut Achamiut. The same Miut Achamiut that we have by Miruach, to tell you that even Miruach of a goy would patter, that halacha will apply through the Ger Shabbat of Rashis would also apply to the mitzvah of Chala, Avagilul Ovid Gechavim Einai Pater. So that really is the question. Is the same achloikis that applies by Beruach, does it apply by Gilgal Ovid Gechavim, by Chala, or not? Zav to Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava said, this is such a good shaila. Yei Rava the Achse Bechama. Halavai, they should show me in a dream. Halavai, they should show me in a dream the answer to this question. Lamai said, what happened? Amar Rava, Hada Amar Rava. Later Rava said, I'm going to pass in the shaila. Manda Amar Miruach Ha'ivit Gechavim Poiter, Gilgal Ha'ivit Gechavim Poiter. Manda Amar Miruach Ha'ivit Gechavim Einei Poiter, Gilgal Ha'ivit Gechavim Einei Poiter. The halacha of what triggers the chi of Chala and the halacha of what triggers the chi of Trumas HaMaishros are the same. If the ownership of a guy will trigger the chi of Chala, it'll also trigger the chi of Maishros. And if the ownership of a guy will not trigger the chi of for Trumas HaMaishros, so too it will not be Mechayev, the dough in Chala. Gewaltig. Eisei Rav Papa l'Rav. Rav Papa wants to challenge this. So Rav who wants to say that the halacha of Miruach of Trumas HaMaishros is the same as that of the Gilgal of Chala for a brace for Arisai Sechem, and their Tali Zevazeh, Rav Papa wants to challenge that and prove that even if you hold that Miruach of a goy is Mechayv in Trumas HaMaishros, but Gilgal of a goy would not be Mechuyev in Chala. Because the Brisa says as follows: Ovid Gechavim Shefrish Peter Chamor, an Ovid Gechavim who had a Peter Chamor born to him, and he was mafresh a sek, because we know the halacha is you transfer the kedusha from the Peter Chamor onto the sek. This fellow was a goy when he did that designation, and then he became a yid. The chala, or he was mafresh chala while he was a goy. The halacha is moedina isha potter. you tell him you're a potter, you're not Jewish yet. You're potter from Chala, you're potter from Pidyon Petachomar. So whatever you did towards that goal is null and void. And therefore, even the little dough that he separated for Chala does not have the status of Truma. And the Yisrael can eat it because a Goy doesn't have a Chiyuv. And the Petach Hamor, Goy is Vayivad. And the Petach Hamor, again, his Pidyon did nothing because he was never Mechuyev in anything. Now, the Brisa conspicuously leaves out another such example, and that is, what about the Truma of a Goy? It's a mashma that how Truma asay, it would be Asura. So, if the Truma would be also kum tachais, from the diak that we made, because of the omission in the Brisa, it's mashma that the Truma of a Goy would be Truma. And if that's the case, clearly this Tana holds that the Truma of a Goy does not pater. Why? Because you have Einmiyut Achamiyut El rabbis. So he holds like Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Yet the Gilgal of the Kavim Poiter. Yet the Brisa says black and white that the dough of a Goy will not become Uchiv and Challah. So you have a raya against Rava who said that the two machlokes and Ritali Zebazeh. But we have another kasha on Rava. Eisei Ravina la Rava. Chalas oivei kichavim ba'aretz utrumosai b'chutz ha'aretz. If the chala of the goy is in Eretz Yisrael, and Rashi says what that means is if the chala of a goy was taken, even though the produce that he made this flour from was the produce of Eretz Yisrael. So he bought product of Eretz Yisrael, wheat, and he made dough with it. The halacha is utrumasai b'chutz la'aretz ma'dian oisai shehu pater. We tell him it doesn't make a difference, even if you bought your wheat in a kosher store, even if you bought it in Israel. It doesn't matter. You're not mechuyev in challah, and you're not mechuyev in truma, and therefore you're pater. And therefore, what will be the status? Chalasoi ne'achelas l'zorim. His challah can be eaten by a zor because it does not take on the status of truma. Utrumasoi eina medamas. And his truma, if it was mixed into other truma and other chulin, it would not answer it because it doesn't have a status of truma. But where did he take the truma? He took the truma from Tvus Chutzlards. So the case that the Bryce has selected to illustrate that there's no din truma for a goy is a very interesting case. The produce that he was being misakin was produce of Eretz Yisrael, but the produce that he used as the truma was produce of Chutz La'aretz. So it's mashma only in that case where the produce that you used was the produce of Chutz La'aretz. That's where the Brisa says Maidin Oisei Shu Potter, and therefore Utrumosai Einim Damas. And from the fact that the Brisa selected this very unique case of Trumosai B'chutz La'aretz, you could be medayik that in a standard case, how Trumosai B'aretz, if the produce was produce of Eretz Yisrael, and he was mafresh Trumas and Ma'asris on this produce of Eretz Yisrael from other produce of Eretz Yisrael, it's mashma from this Brisa that it would be midamas, asura midamas, because otherwise, why would the Brisa have picked such a unique case where the guy used produce of Chutz La'aretz for his hafresh Trumas and Ma'asris? So kum t'chais, this Brisa quite clearly holds. V'hai Tana, the Omar miruach ha'ovet k'chavim einay pater. This Tana holds miruach ha'ovet k'chavim doesn't pater. How do we know that? Because of the dik we just made of how Trumasei Ba'aretz Asura Midamas shows that the miruach of a goy does not pater. Yet Gilgal ha'ovet k'chavim pater. Yet though that was made by a goy, would pater. So once again, it's shver on Rava because Rava said the two machlokes and we're linked to one another. Whatever you hold by miruach ha'ovet k'chavim, you would hold by Gilgal ha'ovet k'chavim. But this brisa seems to clearly indicate that there's a very big distinction between miruach ha'ovet k'chavim, which will not pater, from Trumas and Meisers, and Gilgal Ovid Kechavim, which does pater from Trumas and Meisers. And for the Gemara, Midrabanan, really, Meikar Din, by Chala, the Gilgal of the Goy paters. And Huadin by Miruach. We made a deal. Ha Trumas Hayasura, if it was Truma of Eretz Yisrael on Tful of Eretz Yisrael, it's that we made a deal that would be Aser is not, it's not Midarais, it's only a Chomer Midarabbanan. So my Ikar Adin, this Brisa holds that Miruach of an Ovid Kechavim is not Machayev on with Trumas and Mashers. You have a diak that seems to indicate that this Brisa holds that Miruach of Ovid Kechavim is Mechayev Yun Trumas and Mashers. That's only a Chiyuv D'Rabbanan. But D'Rabbanan, why would D'Rabbanan make such a Gzeira? Zok the Gemara Gzeira Mishum Bali Kisim. It's a Gzeira unto people with deep pockets. Rich people. What type of Gzeira do we need for rich people? So Rashi offers two pshatim. Either if it's a rich person, what he might do is dafke buy from Yidden, but make it look like he's buying from Goyim, and that will cause a big problem because it's really mechuyev in Trumas and Meisers. So let's see Rashi inside. They buy imported tuah. If we're going to allow a wealthy person to buy produce from a goy so that it should be potter from Trumas and Meisers, people are going to say that if you buy from a Jewish importer, you don't have to pay Trumas and Meisers. So if you're buying from an importer, and even if it's only sourced from a goy, which Meikar Din would not be Mechayev in Trumas and Meisers, we're afraid that people will start buying from a Jewish importer that was made by Yid. And therefore, they said that even imported tuas aser midirabanan. That's the first shot. The second shot is we're talking about a wealthy person, so he has a lot of tevel. If he has a lot of tevel, can you imagine what his ma'asher bill is? So therefore, what he does is he buys a lot of tefua from goyim, so that at least he could save his trumas and meishers from a big part of it. So because of that, it's more than that. Rashi reads down, what he might do is he might have a lot of tefua himself, and in order to get out of trumas and meishers, he will be maknet. He will temporarily sell it to a goy for the miruach process, so that it should transition through the miruach process while it belongs to a goy, and then he won't have to give Trumas and Meisers, so that's why they made this Takana D'Rabbanan. Now, what's important to point out, which I should have pointed out earlier, is when it comes to Gilgal Ovid Kechavim, what does Gilgal Ovid Kechavim means? That doesn't mean that the goy physically kneaded it with his own hands. That just means during the kneading process, when this dough was being developed, it belonged to a goy. Miruach Ovid Kechavim, there's actually a big shaila in the Rishonim. Does that mean that it belonged to a goy during the miruach process? Doesn't matter who did the miruach, or does miruach of the kavim mean even if it belonged to a yid, but if the actual miruach action was performed by a goy, that would pater you from trumas and meisers. So there's actually a shaila in the Rishonim that way. So Rashi says via knul of the kavim, he'll sell it to the goy via mricham of the kavim, and the goy will do the miruach. You don't really need both. If you hold it solely in the ownership, that's what you have. And if you hold it solely in who actually did the miruach, you'll do the amricham oivdekecham. Gewaltig. Zok the heilige Gemara weiter. We're going to turn on to Daf Samach Zayin Amud Beis. If that is the case, why don't they make the same gezerah by challah? Afilu challah nami, efsher the afilah pachus mechameshes revoyim kemach v'oid. Why don't you make the same? Why don't you make the same gzer of balakisin that he'll bedavke sell it to a goy, so it should belong to a goy while it's being needed? Zok the Gemara, because even if you made a gzera to make that buchiv and challah, the owner of the flour that he's making into challah would have had another way that he could easily avoid the trigger of the chiv challah, because after the ofil lapachus mechaveshes revoyim kemach v'oid, the minimum shear dough that would be mechayiv in challah would be chameshes revoyim kemach v'oid, a little bit more than 5 revoyim of kemach. So all he has to do is keep his batches slightly below that threshold, and he won't be mechayiv in challah. So you can't stop him from avoiding. You can't stop him from avoiding the chiyuv challah because it's very easy for him to avoid the chiyuv challah. V'oid trumanami. I'm sorry. After avi lapachas mechameshes revoyim kemach v'oid, they would bake in small batches. That's why they didn't make a gzer by challah. Frank Gemara for miruach, there was also an alternative that the person can avoid taking trumas and maisris as well. Trumanami after the avid luck Rabbi, he can use Rabbi Oishia's trick to avoid a chiyuv of trumas and maisris. A person could use a loophole, could make a trick with his tfuah, and he could bring it into his house b'moitz, which Rashi will shortly explain, so that he can serve this grain to his behemoths, and it will be potter from mice. What does b'moitz shalot mean? So Rashi ke'en Michael behema. If you don't clean the grain properly, then it's very good for Michael Behema, and Michael Behema is potter from Meiser. Now the shaila is actually a shaila. Is it only mutter for a behema, or once you brought it in b'moichala for Michael Behema, you can also nash from it? Lishna chvina zok Rashi, another pshat b'moichala is shaloi yira pnei habayis. Make sure it doesn't see the front entrance of your house, and again that will avoid the trigger for a chiyuv meiser. Inami the ayala derech gagos v'derech karfivos, which Rashi says the ein tevel mukfal meiser ad sheyachnisu derech hashar. You have to come in the front door. You have to bring it in through the main entrance to your granary. That's when the chiyuv trumas and meiser was triggered. So the point is, it's so easy to avoid trumas and maisers. Why was there a need to make this gzerim mishum balakisin? So inami the aylo derech gagas derech kafifa. So there's a very big difference. Hasan b'farhesia zila be'milsa. You know why? You know why we make the takana of balakisin only for miruach? Because it's done in public. If you're going to bring it through the back door, it could be seen, and therefore it doesn't pass for him to do it. But hacha betzina loizila bemilsa. But by the dough, we know he could very easily avoid. He could very easily avoid a chiyuv of challah on his dough, because if he makes smaller batches, who in the world is going to notice that he's making small batches? No one sees exactly how much he's measuring out when he's making his dough. But when you're bringing in your tuah from the outside to the inside, everybody could see it, and therefore, he would be embarrassed to do it. So so they're not going to use the Eitzah of Rabbi Ishia. The only thing they might do is buy through a goy. Therefore, we can make that gzera, because once we eliminate the possibility of him using the goy to avoid paying trumas and maisros, he's sort of stuck. He doesn't have any other eitzah. But but by challah, by the chiyuv challah, it's so easy for him to avoid challah discreetly that the takana of avoiding a guy would not help, because he can easily use another way in which he could pater himself from the chiyuv challah. What happened? He started off with 3 saw of produce, and he ground it, and he sifted it until it was so purified that he's now at the Isarin, the pure Isarin Silas that he was working to get so that he could have his beautiful mincha. Nosen olav shamnoi ulavainasoi, you added in the oil and the lavaina, and there's a discussion as to what the order of when you put oil in. Rashi says first you put in oil, then you put in flour, and then you put in more oil. And then you mix it. And then Hanif, he made the tenufa on the mincha, the hegish, and he approached it to the mizbeach. Kamat, he did the kmitza, the hikter, and they did the haktara on the mizbeach of the kmitza. Va'ashar nechal kehanim, and the remainder of this mincha is eaten by the kahanim, and we're specifically talking about the minchas ha'omer. Now we know the halacha is that the new crop you weren't allowed to eat until the omer was brought. So you can imagine everybody is dying to buy from the new crop, just like everyone's ready to run to the pizza store on Motzei Pesach to buy their first pizza. So on the first day of Chalamoid, everybody was waiting to run and buy from the new crop that was also until now. Mishakarav Omer, as soon as the Omer was brought, Yotzin umatzin shuk Yerushalayim shumole kemach koli shaloi berotzav chacham. They found that there was an overflow of kemach koli for sale. We're going to see what kemach koli is. Kemach is flour. Koli is kernels of wheat that were singed, that were roasted. We're going to discuss soon if it's one item, if it's two items. Is it flour and or koli, or is it flour from singed produce? But we will see that later. But it was shaloi barot chacham. The chachamim were not happy that everybody already had everything prepared to be sold. Why? Because obviously, if that's the case, if it's ready to be sold the moment the korban omer was brought, it's clear that all of that tefua was harvested before the omer. And the chachamim did not want any tefua harvested before the omer at all, which means it would take a little while for the markets to be flooded with the new produce because they weren't cut yet. The fact that they were ready to go for sale, it must mean that they were cut in advance. So Rashi Shaloi brought to Chachamim, because Rinin Shema Yoichel Kishayiktzar, while you're cutting, since they cut it before it was mutter in preparation of the omer, they might put a little bit into their mouth while they're working on it, and at that point it's usher. V'yoichel chadash kodim omer. V'zeh shekvaru kemach v'adei nixer kodim omer. If you have flour, you must have cut it before the omer because it takes time to process it into flour. So therefore they were not happy. Divrei Reb Meir, that's the word of Reb Meir. But Reb Yehuda omer b'rotzim chacham ma'yosim. The chachamim did not have that gzera. Freit the Gemara v'lei gazer Reb Yehuda dilma asi lemeichal minei. Are you telling me Reb Yehuda is not concerned that while we're working with the produce of the chadash before the omer, he's not concerned somebody might eat from it? I'll show you that he is concerned about these types of things. Remini, Reb Yehuda held, boitkin or arba asar. Your boidik chametz or arba asar. Our sugya, we're getting ready for Pesach now. Boitkin or arba asar, uba arba asar shachas, and in the morning, uba shas habir. But once the shas habir passes, don't make ridiculous chametz anymore. Because at this point, we don't want you to find chametz. Before there's manabir, when you can still destroy it, that's when we want you to be bodik for chametz. But once it's manabir, we're afraid to let you be bodik for chametz. You know why? Because you might find a very gishmaka piece of chametz and eat it. So better don't even look. But the chachamim ma'amrim loy bodak, meaning even if you weren't bodik at the right time, you could even be bodik all of Pesach, and you'll find chametz and you'll get rid of it. So you see clearly Rabbi Yehuda does have a concern that if you encounter chametz when you're not supposed to eat it, you might eat it. So oy bazoi, why would it be any different with the chadash? Why isn't Rabbi Yehuda afraid that if you're going to be working with the chadash, you might eat it? There's a very big difference between the gzeira of chadash that Rabbi Yehuda is not worried about and the gzeira of chametz that Rabbi Yehuda is worried about. Amar Rabba Shani Chadash. Chadash is different. And let's turn on to Samach Ches Amar Aleph. Mitoich Shaloi Hitar Taloi. Ella Al Yidei Chiduv Zacharhu. You know, Rabbi is not worried about the Omer because you're not allowed to cut it down with a normal sickle. The way they would cut down the wheat before the Omer was by grabbing it and tearing it out. That's an unusual way of doing it. So that will be a built-in reminder. This is not regular food that I can just cut normally. I'll remember that this is special to it's chodesh and I can't eat it. Zacharu. Zak the Gemara, Amalei Abaye Tenech Ktsira. Okay, so we're not worried that during the Ktsira process someone will eat it. But Chine V'Harkada Ma'ikal Meimar. The Mishnah says that you have flour here. So during the grinding process and the sifting process, that's done like any other produce. How will you remember during those functions not to eat it? Zok the Gemara, Haloi Kasha Techina V'Rechai You can't just grind it in a regular water mill or a windmill. You have to use a hand grinder. That's a very different way of doing things, and therefore anyone working on it will remember. And our kada, meaning the sifting, would be al gabe napa. It will be not using the regular sifter in its regular position. You would hold the sifter upside down, and that's how you would sift it. So since the preparation of this grain and this flour is done with a shinu, it's done differently, that's an automatic reminder for someone not to eat it, and that's why Rabbi Huda wasn't concerned. But the chametz that you run into, if you look on Pesach, that could be dangerous. Someone might eat it, and there Rabbi Huda says you should not continue to be boidik once the Zman Abir has passed. Baruch Hashem, we were zeicher to finish Daf Samach Zayin, and Be'ez Hashem tomorrow we'll learn Daf Samach Ches. Today is the yahrzeit of Medrash Yeshiva Reb El Yishvei. He was a big inspiration to all of his Talmidim, and his neshama should be an Aliyah. Should have an Aliyah.
Yeah.
Right.